Hey team, in this video we're going to be talking about password rotation on a specific secret. Now there are some prerequisites that you'll need to have completed before you get to this stage, such as having your distributed engines fully intact, connected over the right ports to your Active Directory. These are other modules, so just ensure that that is already completed. The outcome of this video is going to be that we can have a singular secret within Delinea that uses a password rotation service account to rotate the password of a regular user. On the screen at the moment, you can see two accounts. One account is the Delinea password reset account, and the other one is Daffy Duck, who is just a regular user within the organization. You can see by their groups that it's a domain user, Daffy Duck, and for the password rotation group, password rotation user, it's a part of the account operators group. This will be a minimum requirement because this user will need to rotate the passwords of domain users. If you have domain administrators that you want to rotate the passwords of, you may need more permissions than account operators. And depending on your Active Directory environment, there might be some specific configuration changes that you will need to do to ensure that that works. But in this case, we're going to be using a domain user, very regular non-privileged user, and rotate their password just so that you understand how to do this. Now, you won't be carrying out this method very often, and the reason for that is because it's better to use a secret template or a secret policy to carry out this work, but it's good to know and understand how to do it on an individual secret if needed. So now that we understand that we have these two accounts sitting here, what I'm going to do is go to my Delinea instance, which I have open here. And you can see that I've already added the password rotation user here. So if I click on here, we can see that the Delinea PW reset account already exists in Delinea. So I've just gone and added a secret using the Active Directory password rotation template. And we can see we have a successful heartbeat. So that's a good sign. I'm now going to move back to the AD password rotation folder that I've created. And I'm going to add our regular domain user to the platform. So I'm just going to select an Active Directory account secret template, and we're just going to call this Daffy Duck AD user. Type in the relevant domain for yourself and the username of the user. Now, in this case, because we're changing the password or going to be changing the password of this user, we don't actually have to make sure that the password is matching. So I'm just going to generate a random password in Delinea there. I'm not going to leave any notes, but most importantly, we need to make sure we click the correct site. So the site is going to be in reference to the site of the distributed engine that you've deployed. So ensure that the site can connect to the correct Active Directory domain that's relevant to this user. If you have multiple domains, multiple sites, and multiple distributed engines, you just want to make sure that's correct. If you don't select this correctly, it will try to use the wrong site or the wrong distributed engine to carry out the changes in Active Directory, and you might get some errors or failures. I'm going to go ahead and create this secret. Great, it automatically opens up and we can see it's pending a heartbeat, which will fail because we've given it the incorrect password because we generated a password in Delinea. But what we're going to do is go into remote password changing as a tab here. And we'll see right now there's no credentials or any auto change enabled on this secret. So I'm just going to hit this edit button in the top right here. And instead of using the credentials on the secret to change this password, we're going to use privileged account credentials. And these privileged account credentials are the same account credentials that were already created in that folder structure that I just showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and select that from this list here. And we can see that it's selected. After this, I'm going to put in an auto change schedule. By doing this, the password will auto change based on the schedule that I give it. So the next password is going to be randomly generated, and I'm going to have an auto change schedule of once a day. So every 1 day, starting from today's date. And let's make this 12 p.m. instead in the middle of the day. Probably not a great time to change the password, but hey, we're in a lab. Importantly, I don't want this secret to only change upon its expiry. So regardless of whether the secret's expired, I want this to change every day. So I'm just going to uncheck this. Great. So we've saved the configuration. We've got privileged account credentials on a schedule. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And we can see those settings have saved. Now, you may or may not have this option here in the change password as a change password now. And this is actually a checkpoint that you'll need to enable in your secret template. I've got it enabled currently. So instead of waiting for midday tomorrow by the looks of it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go change password now. You can use this feature whenever you like, and I'm going to hit change password for randomly generated. Note that this process is not instant. It will go into a queue. So the larger the organization that you have, the more heartbeats that you're doing, the more password rotations that you're doing, it's going to take longer to do this password changing effect. So if you need to relatively quickly go and change password, this is not always the most ideal way to do it, but it is an option. Great, so I've just gone ahead and done a quick refresh, and I can see that the password has successfully been changed at this date and time. And we can go back to overview. We can see we now have a successful heartbeat, and that the password is this password here now, randomly generated. Just as a quick addition for getting this change password now, let's go into our settings and administration, secret templates, our Active Directory account templates. We go to mapping, and we can see that I have enable remote password changing on this secret template. So if you'd like that button to appear, which is pretty handy, you can go ahead and enable this, and it should show up for you. This is a bit of a time skip because we'll be covering secret templates password changing in another component. Great, well that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video.